You know, there is one shift in awareness that changes everything. Not a technique, not a method, not new information, but a realization that sounds simple at first. And then, one day, you suddenly see that you've been living from a completely different place. Your state is more important than your goal. And until this becomes a felt understanding, not just a phrase, people keep repeating the same patterns. Most people live like this. There is a goal, and there is me right now. And between me and the goal, there is distance, tension, effort. I need to become someone else. I need to get there. I need to achieve more. It sounds reasonable, but this is where the real trap begins. Because a goal always lives in the future, and your state is who you are now. And reality does not respond to the future. It responds to the present. Many people sincerely believe that once they reach the goal, they will finally feel different. First success, then peace. First money, then freedom. First results, then confidence. But very often, it happens the other way around. The state comes first. The goal comes second. If there is no inner shift, a goal is either never reached, or it is reached and still feels empty. You've probably noticed this. Someone works for years towards something. They get it. And after a short time, they feel nothing. Why? Because they arrived at the goal from the same inner state they started with. The goal did not change the state. A goal is not a destination. It is a reflection of an inner level. And until this is understood, a person lives in a constant mode of not yet. Not there yet. Not enough yet. Not ready yet. And this creates permanent inner tension. Here is the paradox. You can choose the right goal, a meaningful one, even a spiritual one. But if you move toward it from a state of lack, you only strengthen that lack. Because reality doesn't listen to explanations. It feels your state. A state is not an emotion, not a mood. It's a deep sense of who you believe you are right now. And this is where the real shift happens. When you stop working on the goal and start working with your state, reality begins to reorganize itself. Not dramatically, not magically, but naturally. You stop chasing life and begin moving with it. This is important to hear correctly. It's not about giving up on goals. And it's not about wanting nothing. It's about stopping the idea that your goal is the source of your state. Because that changes everything. When a goal becomes the source of your state, you are always saying, I don't have it yet. And when the state becomes primary, the goal loses its emotional weight. It becomes direction, not pressure. And these are two very different things. Pressure makes you live in the future. Direction allows you to live now. And when that happens, something else appears. Stability, not apathy, not indifference, but inner steadiness. You stop trying to prove yourself to life. You stop negotiating with reality. You enter a certain inner state and act from there. And from that state, your actions become clearer, less chaos, less unnecessary effort, more accuracy. Many people don't understand why they do so much and still get weak or unstable results, because they act from, I need this. And I need this always means I don't have this. And reality keeps confirming that story. The shift begins when you honestly ask yourself, what state do I live in every day? Not sometimes, not during meditation, but in ordinary life. More tension or more trust? More struggle or more allowing? Because that is exactly what you are broadcasting. Goals are not broadcast. Words are not broadcast. States are broadcast. This is not philosophy. It's practical. You can notice it. When you are calm and grounded, even small things begin to work. Conversations flow easier. Decisions come at the right time. People respond differently. And when there is contraction inside, everything feels heavy. One more important thing. A state cannot be forced. You can't create it through pressure. A state appears when you stop fighting the present moment. When you stop insisting that now is not enough. You don't need to be in a perfect state. but you can stop punishing yourself for not being somewhere else. This is subtle, and this is where many people miss it. They try to change their state using the same pressure that created it. The shift happens when you allow yourself to be where you are without self-judgment. And from that place, new reactions appear. New words, new choices, new steps. The goal does not disappear. It simply stops pulling you. It becomes orientation, not a burden. And then the path stops feeling heavy. You may have noticed people who move calmly, without rush, and still reach results. This is not luck, it's a state. They are not chasing goals. They are living from a certain inner level. And life adjusts. This is the real shift in awareness. Not how to get there faster, but who am I while moving? Because you don't arrive at a goal. You arrive from yourself. And if inside you are never there, no goal will fix that. But when the inner shift happens, many goals are reached almost as a side effect. Not because you stopped acting, but because you stopped interfering. One last thing before we finish. If you feel like you have goals, but no satisfaction, nothing is wrong with you. This is not failure. It's an invitation to go deeper. Not to a new goal, but to a new state. Over the next few days, try not asking, "How do I get there faster?" Ask instead, "What state am I living in right now?" And just observe, without judgment, without forcing. You may notice that this observation alone starts changing things. If this video resonated with you, watch it again. These ideas don't land the first time. Subscribe to the channel if you want to walk this path together. Here, we don't chase goals. We shift states. And remember, anything is possible.